Fire, fire.
Guys, welcome to my channel. I'm super excited to be teaching you how to make your own 8 pieces padded top. I'm making use of an Ankara fabric today, but for the middle part of my front, I'll be using my pattern paper to cut it out first before transferring it to my fabric. Not to waste the fabric. So the measurement we need for today is our shoulder measurement, which is 14, bust measurement 40, waist measurement at 3.5, nipple to nipple 7.5, shoulder to bust point 10, shoulder to under bust 14, shoulder to half length 16, then length of the top or the blouse is 24 inches. So as usual, you fold your fabric into two, but this is my pattern paper. I folded it into two. The length of my top is 26 and 24. I'll be using 2 inches for folding, which I made 26. Then this line I drew here is my nipple to nipple. Remember I said my nipple to nipple is 7.5, which when you divide it by 2, you get 3.5, then plus half inch sewing allowance, which I now have 4 as a 4.25. So I measured 4.25 all the way down to the length of my top. Then this line I drew here is my shoulder to bust point, which I said mine is 10. I'll be using half inch to join, which I make 10.5. Then my shoulder to under bust is 14. I added half inch for joining. My half length is 16. I added half inch for joining as well. So I've explained the lines I drew here. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'll come to this upper part and I'll measure out 1 inch. Remember to always measure from the folded part. This is the folded part. Then I come to my under bust, which is this line, this second line in my under bust. This is my bust point. I'll be measuring 1.5. It depends on you. You can use 1, you could use 1.5, you could use 1.25, but I'm using 1.5. The next thing I'll be doing is to connect this 1.5 to this point. So I'll be using my French curve. This same 1.5, I'll measure it at my half length, which is this part. So I'll just use my ruler to connect the lines. Then for my flare, or you call it A line, I want to be using 2.5 inches. So from this my nipple to nipple line, I'll measure out 2. You can use 2.5, you can use 3. Okay, let me use 3. Use 3 inches. If you want to use 2.5, you can. If you want to use 3, you use. So what I will do is to connect the line from this my half length to this 3 inches that I gave for my flare. You use your ruler to connect it. This is it. Then for this upper part, I measured half inch from my bust point. I removed half inch from my bust point, which is this. Let me see. So I'll be using my ruler to connect the lines from this part to this my 1 inch that I measured out before. So can you see? What I will do is just to cut out. cutting the middle part of my front 8-piece blouse, I will now bring my Ankara fabric, still folded into two. Remember, I'm using 26. My fabric is, my length of my top is 24, but because I'm going to be adding 2 inches for my folding, so it's 26. So this is the cut out and pattern fabric. I will turn it this way. Make sure that when you are placing it, this down part should, the fabric should accommodate it. See. So I'll do is to cut out this shape out. I'll cut out this shape. Could do something to do that for it not to move. So now I want to fold for my sides. Remember, I've cut out my middle part. I want to now measure out my sides. This line here is still my shoulder to my bust point. The second line is my shoulder to my under bust. Then the third line is my shoulder to my waist. And this is the length of my full blouse. So remember, I've taken out some inches here. So now to measure, I'll bring my measurement. My bust is 40. My bust is 40. When I divide it by 10, when I divide it by 4, I'll get 10. 40 divided by 4 is 10. So now I'll place my tape here. What I have here is 4 and almost half. It means I have to minus it from it because it's already added here. So I'll minus it from my measurement. See where I place? I've placed it outside because this is already part of my measurement. So 40 divided by 4 is 10. So for my bust is 40 divided by 10. I have divided by 4. I'll have 10. Remember, if I remove this middle part of my front and drop it here, it will still be the same measurement. So I just prefer dropping it here. What I will do, like I said before, is to place your tape and check how many you have here, which is 4 and almost half. So I'll just minus it from my measurement because it's already there, which is this. This is 10. Then plus 2.5 inches sewing allowance. Then my under bust is 34. 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. I'll check what I have here. What I have here is 3, so I'm going to remove 3 from this measurement. I'll place my tape here. 8.5, which 8.5 is this. Then plus 2.5 inches sewing allowance. Then for my waist, I'm doing the same thing. My waist is 34 also. I'll check what I have here, which is also 3. I'll place my tape like this. then I have 8.5 plus 2.5 inches sewing allowance. So what I'll do is just to use the ruler to trace the line from that part. So I've traced my line down to this part. Then from this line here that I drew here, I will take out my 3 inches A-line allowance. My 3 inches A-line allowance. So what I will do next is just to trace the line from this my waist down to this 3 inches A-line allowance. Now just draw my measurement up, because after doing this I will cut out my neck. You can decide to curve it out, but later I will still do that. So I've done my A-line, I'll cut out this part. So if I have to make 6 pieces, this is already done like this. So open it up. This is the middle part. Then just piece them together. But we're making 8 pieces. So this one have to be folded, and I'll cut it into 2, which will make it to have four pieces. So now we already have our 2 pieces. What I'll do next is just to make this one. I can cut it into 2, or I can just fold it into 2 and then cut my fabric to be into 2, which will make it 4 pieces at the front. So remember, you place it like this. So because I'm going to be joining my 2 pieces together, I have to add 1/2 inch allowance to this place. 1/2 inch allowance. All the way down. Inch down to my waist, down to my waistline. So what I will just do is just to use my ruler and still trace it down. Then from this my waistline, I'll come to this down part to take my 3 inches also for A-line allowance. Trace it from the waist. I'll trace it from the waistline. So remember, it's folded into 2. So I'll just cut out from coming out from this 1/2 inch that I joined. Remember, when folding your fabric into 2 for your front part, fold at least, when you fold, it should be at least 30 inches, so you can accommodate what you are cutting, which when you open it, to become 60 inches. trying to remove the excess. So now they're into 4 pieces at the front, which is 1, 2, then 3 and 4. At the back it also have 4 pieces, which makes it 8. I want to cut out my neckline. You can join before cutting, but I'm going to be cutting before joining, so I don't waste my lining and my extra I'll be putting to it. So what I did was that I measured out 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use 1/2 inch to join into this one, so I place it like this so I can cut out my neckline. So my neckline I want to be using 3.5 inches for the wideness. Neckline, I'm going to be measuring from here. I'm not adding the 1/2 inch that I'm using to join these 2 parts together, so I'll place it from here. I want my neckline, the wideness to be 3.5. Then my shoulder is 14 divided by 2 is 7. Then 1/2 inch for joining. And I'm giving a 1 inch for my shoulder slant. The length of my armhole, I want it to be 8 or 8.5. I'm using 8.5. Then for the length of my neck, I want it to be around 5. I want to draw my armhole. On this part, I'll get my middle point, which is 8. Now I'll take out 3.25 my armhole. Then I will draw out my shoulder slant. Then I say for the length of my neck, I want it to be 5 inches. So this. My neckline, which I said I wanted 3.5. I measured from this part to 3.5. Then I did my shoulder slant. Then I measured out my armhole. Remember, this is the part that will be, as in the straight part will be outside. Then this curved part will be what will be pinned to your side for the front part. I'll just cut out. Remember to pin there. Cut out my armhole. So I'm done cutting the front part, which is this. Can you see? So the front part is already into 4 pieces. So this is the front part. It's into 4 pieces. The back part will also have 4 pieces, but with zip allowance. Back part, I also folded my fabric into 2 of about more than 30 inches when you measure. But you use 30 or thereabout, 30 inches when folded. So this line I drew here is my zip allowance. Then this other line that is here is my nipple to nipple. I'll measure out. I measured out 4.25 for my zip allowance. So you also determine your own nipple to nipple to measure. So this is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Then this line I drew here is from my shoulder to my bust point. Then from my shoulder to my waist point. So what I'll be doing here is, after drawing these lines, these 2 lines, I'll just come here from my bust point. I'll measure out. I'll come to this, to my waist point, sorry, and I'll measure out ½ inch. To my waist point, I'll measure out ½ inch. Then I'll trace the line from my bust point down to this ½ inch here. I'll come to this down part here, and I'll measure out my 3 inches for the flare allowance, or for the A line. So I'll trace it from this line here, not from this one, from this one. I'll use my chalk to trace it out. Remember I said from here to here is 3 inches. So I'll cut out this part before using it to measure out my side. Later I'll open up this part, which is my zip allowance. And now I want to measure out my sides. So I'm going to place it like this. Then I'll cut out this shape. I'm going to place it so I can be seeing my zip allowance. So what I'll do, I'll cut out this part. But before doing that, I want to now measure my bust and my waist. So my bust is 40, like I said. I'll divide it by 4, which is 10. But remember, I've already cut out some parts from my back. So what I'll do is also measure from here to here. What I have is 4.25. I'm not touching my zip allowance, only from here to this line here, which is 4.25. So now what I'm going to now do is, I'll remove 4.25 from my measurement, which is then 4.25 from my measurement. That is why I placed my tape here. My tape has started here. 40 divided by 4 is 10. Then plus, I can use 2 inches or still 2.5. Then my waist is 34. I'll measure what I have here, which is 4. I'm going to remove 4 from my measurement. 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. You want it to be around there. Should be there. Then plus 2.5 inches allowance. Still also, I will draw out my line from this part, and then I'll take out my 3 inches for my sewing for my A-line. Sorry. Now I'll use my ruler to trace the line from my half line, which is my waist point, to my 3.5. So this is it. So I'll just adjust to still draw my straight line up, because I'll still cut out my neck. So remember, like I said, you have to cut out this shape also. Corner also, cut out what I've already traced out. I can just open up my zip allowance. This is my zip allowance I'm opening up. So it's into 4 pieces. This is the sides. This is my zip allowance. So if you open it up, they're into 4 pieces. But I want to cut out my neck and my shoulder. The same thing I did at the front, the same thing I'll be doing here. Remember, your zip allowance will be the one that will be outside. I'll also measure out 1/2 inch here. Because I'm using 1/2 inch to join, then I'll pin it. Remember, my zip allowance was 1 inch, which is around here. So because the line is here, that is why I'm still drawing it out here, so you understand. So I measure from my zip line. That is where I'll measure. My neck line, I want it to be 3.5. 3.5 inches. Then for the length, because it's a back neck, I'll make it 1 inch. Then from this zip line, my shoulder is 14 divided by 2, which is 7, plus 1/2 inch joining allowance. So the same thing I did from what I did in the back. I want my armhole to be 8.5, which is this. My shoulder slant is also 1 inch, which I'll be tracing from my neckline down to my shoulder slant. Then I get my middle point of my armhole, which is an 8. My middle point now is 4, and I'm taking out 3/4, which I will curve to enter here. So I said for my neckline, I want the length to be 1 inch, which is this. I'll just cut out the shape. Remember, you will cut it from this part, from the ending part. after my shoulder slot. So I'm done cutting all my parts. What I will do next is to cut out lining for all these shapes. All the shapes will have its own lining, and then I'll place ST on the whole back, and I'll place wording at the front. So I'll be showing you when I'm done doing that.
Shawty want $1 million. Say make a wire.